Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you another list of underhyped books. I have done one of these videos in the past and you guys seem to really enjoy it, so I thought that I would do one more. So the big question is, of course, what qualifies as an underrated book? I never did one of these videos for a long time because I didn't think that I was really qualified to decide what was underrated and what wasn't, just because something isn't being talked about in, for example, the booktube community right this very second does not mean that it is underhyped or underrated or whatever. But I realized that you can actually sort your Goodreads shelves by the number of ratings. So what I did was I went ahead and had a look at the books that I have read and have logged on Goodreads and picked out the ones that are under 1,000 reviews at the time of filming. That may change. Hopefully it will change. That means that more people will have read it. But right now, everything is under 1,000 or right around 1,000. So in my previous video, I think I picked about 5 or 6 books. I picked 5 for this round, and these are all sci-fi and fantasy books, and they range from middle grade to YA to adult. So let's get started. So let's start off with the middle grade book. So this is The Way Past Winter by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. She is a wonderful children's author who has actually now, since the publication of this book, written a young adult book called The Deathless Girls and has written an adult book called The Mercies. So this one is not necessarily my favorite of her books that I have read so far. I really love The Girl of Ink and Stars, which I think was her debut novel, which got lots and lots of kind of notice and acclaim. But this one is wonderful and I really enjoyed it. So this is a middle grade book and it is set in a place where there is eternal winter, and we follow a young girl named Mila, and one day she wakes up and she discovers that her brother Oscar has vanished. These kind of mysterious men had showed up at their house and he vanishes the next day. So, sorry, Dax is in my lap and pushing the book around. So basically, she knows that he wouldn't leave without telling his sisters, so she sets off to find him. She discovers that all the other boys in the village have disappeared as well, except for one, whose name is Rune. So Mila and Rune journey off to find them through this kind of frozen land, and it's a wonderful read. So not only is the hardback really beautiful, it's a sort of naked hardback, it doesn't have a dust jacket, it has a ribbon, which like is always gonna get me, and it's got like lovely end papers and it's got really lovely kind of designs on the page. This is now out in paperback. I don't know if it's gonna have those same elements, but it is well worth it to pick up. It's such a beautiful book and I really enjoyed it. She has a knack for writing really fun and really strong young heroines, and I just adored this. This is a great book to read in the winter time. Moving on to YA, I have another fantasy book, and it actually makes me a little bit sad that this book is under 1,000 reviews because I loved it, just as I love all of this author's books. So this is The Song of the Crimson Flower by Julie C. Dow. This is technically kind of a third book in a series, but it's really a companion novel. You don't have to have read Forest of a Thousand Lanterns or Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix in order to really get this book. You do have some cameos that kind of come in from those other two books, from that duology, but really this is its own story, and it's a fairy tale. So it follows a girl who's from a very wealthy family and a boy who is from a very poor family. He falls in love with her, she rejects him, and he kind of runs off and he ends up getting entangled with a witch and she has to save him. It's a really fun story. I absolutely blasted through this. I devour her books. I think she's a wonderful writer, and I think that she's just well worth reading. She's one of my auto-buy authors. I will read anything that she writes, and even though sometimes I do struggle a little bit with YA, I will always love her books. So I would highly recommend this, especially if you are looking for an Own Voices East Asian fantasy. So if you've been keeping up with my One Direction sticker hunt, I will go ahead and link that vlog if you have no idea what I'm talking about. I just found another one because Scottish Husband stuck a sticker that says I Heart Zayn, whoever Zane is, to my copy of The Splintered Silence by Kayla Olson. This is a underrated sci-fi YA book, and I do find that YA sci-fi does tend to get a little bit more underrepresented in terms of the YA sort of age group. You more often find fantasy rather than sci-fi, which is such a shame because I thought this was really, really good fun. So this follows a girl, her name is Linley, and she is the leader of basically this group of teenagers on a space station. There was a virus, I believe, that killed every first generation crew member, essentially killed all of the adults. So only the kids are left, and they're kind of fending for themselves. They can't go back to Earth because the Earth doesn't know what this virus is, if it's gonna come and like, you know, destroy the planet or not. So they're basically just stuck in space. However, it turns out that someone is going around and murdering the remaining members of the crew, the teenagers. And so Linley has to find out who it is. This is a really, really fun take on the kind of closed room mystery story, and it is very much a mystery story set in space, and I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really, really good fun. I think this is a little bit older now. It came out in 2018, and I don't think I heard a huge amount about this, which is such a shame because I thought it was really good fun, and it would be really great to see more representation for sci-fi YA. Now we're moving on to adult books. So this one is science fiction. This is The Light Between Us by Katie Kahn. If that name sounds familiar, she is the author of Hold Back the Stars, which is one of my favorite books. She does sci-fi romance really, really well, and this is no exception. So this was her follow-up book to Hold Back the Stars, and it's another standalone. It takes place in Oxford, and our two main characters are Thea and Isaac. So they meet at university, at Oxford University, and they kind of like have all these kind of close encounters with romance, but it doesn't ever quite work out. So now they have graduated from university, and Thea is completely focused on her work, and her work is to prove that time travel exists. Time travel is real. So basically she does an experiment and one of their friends disappears, and the two of them have to try to find their missing friend, and they end up having to reevaluate their relationships, shall we say. This is a really, really good book. If you liked Hold Back the Stars, which was very, very popular, I think is being turned into a film, you should absolutely pick this one up because it has very similar kind of sci-fi romance vibes to it, but it is set kind of in the modern world as opposed to Hold Back the Stars, which is set in the future. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really, really good fun. And last but not least, I will take every opportunity to talk about this author's books. This is Realm of Ash by Tasha Suri. This is the second and final book in the Books of Amba duology. So in these books, we follow two sisters. In the first one, we follow Mare, that is Empire of Sand, and in this one, we follow Arwa, who is her younger sister, who we see briefly in the first book. So Arwa is all grown up at this point. She is the sole survivor of a massacre at the fort that she was living in with her military husband, and she is recovering from this kind of incredible trauma. She has been left alive, she thinks for a particular reason, and she is trying to grieve in a way that is appropriate for a woman in her culture. However, she is a woman who feels a lot of anger and wants to have freedom. So she ends up being taken to kind of the palace, and she meets this disgraced prince, and he has started turning to forbidden arts. This book is amazing. Something that Tasha Suri does really well is the slow burn romance. So if you enjoy romance, and the romance in Empire of Sand is probably the best romance I've ever read, and this one comes in a really, really close second. She writes really, really strong female characters, not necessarily in the butt-kicking sense, but in the sense of these incredibly intelligent women who have this incredible inner strength. And I absolutely love Arwa. She's an amazing character, and this book also dives into a lot of themes that I particularly love. The first book tends to focus more on the rituals and rites of dance as a magic system, and this one focuses on your ancestry and your family as part of the magic system. This is a wonderful book. The first book is a wonderful book, and I would love for everyone in the world to read these because they're just magnificent. So that is it for my short little list of underrated sci-fi and fantasy books from middle grade to young adult to adult. So I would love to know in the comments below if you have read any of these books, if they are in your TBR, or if you have some underrated books that you would like to promote. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.